today on Care Conversations by Care Launch, we're joined by Nick Somani, CEO and founder at Cara Healthcare, who's leading one of the most ambitious growth strategies in the care sector right now, scaling from a handful of homes to a national group through smart acquisitions and operational innovation. In this episode, Nick shares what it really takes to scale with quality, how to embed systems that support rapid growth, and the role technology and marketing play in driving results. Whether you're running a single home or looking to expand, this conversation is packed with practical insight you won't want to miss. So Nick, you've acquired 8 care homes this year. Can you give us an overview of your journey to get to that point?
Well, I qualified as a pharmacist and I was looking, to do something more, something different. And I came across an opportunity, which was to purchase this one care home. It was in financial trouble, as well as trouble with the regulatory authority as well. But I didn't have the financial means to buy a care home. I'd only just graduated. As I did pharmacy for a short while. So, and care homes are quite a big investment. So therefore, I had to come up with an innovative way of finding a way to get into the care home industry, as lenders wouldn't lend to somebody who was a first-time buyer. And this home was in big trouble with the NMC, CQC, and the financial authorities as well. So I had to come up with this idea. I said to him, look, I can't afford to buy you, but I can give you an offer to buy your shares for £1. And he looked at himself and he said, and he looked at his brother and said, can you give me 10 minutes? He walked away for about 10 minutes, came back and shook my hand and said, it's a deal.
Wow.
So I literally bought my first care home for £1. I didn't actually know what was involved within a care home. I thought I knew because I was a pharmacist. I felt care in pharmacy and care in care homes is exactly the same. I quickly realized that the only similarity was a medication round, and there was a big steep learning curve. So I started off with buying my first home, which was a troubled home. But I think it was the best thing I did because I learnt the most from buying that particular home. And then after I bought another in the same manner, and I continued to do the same thereafter.
So that's an amazing start. So from one care home for £1, troubled start, to now this journey where you're acquiring 8 care homes in a year. How do you make the decision that your organisation is almost ready for that leap?
Yeah.
And what systems and processes do you have in place to make sure that the acquisitions are successful?
Yes, I think it's really important to make sure that actually before we grow, that we're ready for that growth.
Yeah.
So actually, most people will expand and then build a team. At Cara, we decided to do it slightly differently. We decided to make sure we built that team first.
Okay.
So we started to add in our senior management team first and start building them within Cara's culture, within Cara's values. That enabled a smoother transfer and a smoother process of acquiring these 8 homes in 1 year. So it's critically important to get your teams right first. And as we built that, it became a lot easier to manage those homes and take those homes over into the Cara's format. So building those teams was vitally important for us initially.
So just on that, you would potentially have someone that's going to be the home manager of a home that you're purchasing or whatever position, and they will come in, work for Cara Healthcare to begin with, maybe at a different location, so that they're ready, they have your brand and your story ingrained in a sense, and then they're put to work, and that's a really good idea.
Absolutely, yeah. So I always say a house cannot be built without a foundation.
Yeah.
So it's really important to make sure that you build your foundation first. That means empowering your team. It means equipping them with the right tools to be able to build that house, to build more care homes or to buy more homes. So it's really important. We took on managers before we grew, before we added those homes on. They stayed within our existing homes to learn our values, to learn our culture, to learn our processes, to learn our quality and compliance systems. So we brought them in to do that first. And as they had done that, the homes came on board. It was much easier for them to go in and put forward the Cara model into those homes.
That is an amazing idea, something I've not heard of before. And It's almost like investment mindset over kind of cost. Like, yeah, have the home and then employ people. That saves costs, but you're investing in the future there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's that appreciates an investment, and everybody will think initially it's a large investment. But if it enables your home to run smoothly, if it enables a smoother transfer, if it allows people to live better lives, then that investment is worth the investment. I found doing it the other way around was quite stressful. It was difficult. It was tasking, and then to find the right people, you're 3-4 months down the line, and then you become into a situation where you're trying to firefight. Whereas this way, it's a much smoother process. So the investment to me was well worth that investment, and for a much peaceful lifestyle.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and then as the brand of Cara Healthcare grows, more and more care homes come on board. How do you ensure the quality of care remains consistent between all of your locations?
We recently set up something called the Cara Training Academy, and quite often I say in that place that you cannot be successful. You can only be successful, and you don't have to be different to all the others. You just need to be consistent, which most people aren't, right? Yeah. So I think it's really important that consistency is there, through that process. And how do we achieve that? We've done that through Cara Training Academy. So actually we have a monthly training academy that tours the country, goes to the Northeast, goes to East Anglia, goes to East Midlands, and each month we'll have this training academy which will empower our staff, which will allow our staff to grow. So we do things that other care home providers may or may not do. So things about teaching them in operation excellence, for example, but also building their own personal growth, overcoming challenges that they personally, perhaps would not have ordinarily, tried to challenge themselves, for example. So yeah, this Cara Training Academy has really taken, a good journey now. We've done about 10 or 12 of these, and it's really empowering our people to provide excellence care. Yeah.
Amazing. So, and then I suppose because of your journey, the rapid expansion, what would you say to other care home directors looking to expand their own care home groups? What are the key factors to consider?
I think they need to look beyond the building. Whilst the building is really important, people need a good quality of place to stay and to live. I think they need to look at what the leadership is like. What is the culture and the values within the home as well? That's really important. And I think it's important for them to look at that. And would they put their own mother or father into the home? And actually, if they would not, then it's perhaps not the right home for them. So I think it's really important to look at all of those factors. I think it's important to make sure that they fit in with your cultures and your values, because if they don't, then it's probably not the right home. At Cara, we don't grow unless that home strengthens our purpose to deliver excellence in care. So we will only grow if that fits within our environment. We often find that growth, and if it's a wrong growth, it just dilutes care as opposed to anything else.
Moving on to operational excellence in the care sector, managing multiple homes is obviously challenging, but how do you standardize those processes across all of the sites whilst allowing each home to have its own individual brand or personality?
So we believe freedom within a framework. It's really important. I always say that all successful people in the world have structure. If you look at the CEO of Apple, CEO of Amazon, CEO of Tesla, all of these people have structure. They wake up in the morning, they'll go for a jog, they'll go for a run, then they'll have their senior management meeting, and then they'll have, various other things within their diary, right? Appointments within their diary. And I believe that structure is really, really important, but also freedom within that framework. Structure allows freedom, right? So it allows you to achieve those very things within the community. So the people want different communities, want different things. A community in the north, east will want different things to the south. So it enables that freedom to be able to provide that to them. So providing that freedom within the communities, understanding actually what your workforce may be very different as well. What's the culture like in the northeast? What's the culture like in the south? Very different. Yeah. And in fact, I don't think the south and the north can understand each other. It took me some while for sure. But, it's great people, wherever you go, you meet great people. So I think it's really important, that there's freedom within that structure, which allows them to be flexible to do the things they need to do locally and manage that locally.
And I suppose with that said, culture and values is important. Is there a kind of standardized approach, or do you break it down by region in terms of cultures and values? And I suppose as well, any new person coming in, using your model of getting them in before they start to learn, does that play a big role in establishing a good culture?
Absolutely. I think culture is caught and not taught. I believe when we as Cara take over a home, we walk in and we listen. We understand. We don't go in and we impose. We make sure we understand their processes, understand their feelings, how they have done things. And then we try and educate and train, perhaps. And we also learn from them as well. So I think it's a two-way street. I said culture is caught, it's not taught. That comes over a period of time. Them understanding Cara, them understanding that we're here to do good. Yeah. So again, that Cara Training Academy, we not just only provide training on compliance, but on leadership management, on making sure that how do we empower people for their personal growth? How do we make sure that we strengthen their ability personally to manage difficult situations? Because in care, quite often we come across difficult situations. A good manager in a good home can manage a good home.
Yeah.
But I believe a good manager is one who can manage a difficult situation and make it into a good home.
And there's also the other side when it comes to operations. Obviously, as you get bigger as a care group,
yes,
you need to almost streamline operations, otherwise costs become too much. Is there any tools or processes that you've brought into place as well that help streamline the operations away from embedding the staff in the culture of Cara Healthcare beforehand?
Yes, I think quite often we are like working in the business, so it's quite difficult to see within the four walls actually with clarity and with purpose what's actually going on. So I think it's quite important to work on the business and not in the business. I learned that very early on. The only way to grow and the only way to build that culture is by working on the business opposed to inside the business. That doesn't mean that we don't get onto the floor, we don't talk to our people. We engage regularly with our staff, we engage regularly with our teams. And we recently set up something called Care and Share with the CEO. So on a weekly basis, my staff will engage with me on a weekly basis and turn up and tell me the great things about our care homes, things that aren't working so well, things that we can improve on, great stories that, that's been happening in their homes. It allows us to stay in touch with our homes, it allows us to stay in touch with our people. So I think it's really important as people are growing that it's important to make sure that you are working on the business quite often or working on the home as opposed to inside it.
Amazing. And I suppose you've had to harness the power of technology to help you through that.
Yes.
What is there any examples of technologies that you've implemented as a group that have really helped improve your care?
I think basically 5 years ago, we were all paper-based.
Yeah.
Or majority of the care home industry was paper-based. So in 2020, this whole wave came in of changing from paperwork to technology-based systems. And just as we're grasping technology, AI gets thrown into it, right?
Yeah.
And now we're all having to grasp AI very, very quickly. So where we have, or where we've been successful, or we're trying to achieve great things within care, is that we're now not just only having to making sure that the technology has been put in place, but also making sure that AI is there. I believe in working smarter, not harder, and therefore using AI is being smarter. Yeah. So, people always say AI will change the care world. I say that AI will empower our people to change the care world. So it's really important that we embrace AI, we learn and we embed that within our systems. What have we done at Cara? We've used zero agency in the last 10 years. Wow. So no agency use, and we've had less than 1% turnover of staff. But how do we continue that success as we continue to grow, right? Yeah. So that's really important. The only way we can do that is by looking at data, by putting in things like AI into the mix of that, to making sure that we're recruiting the very best people. If the tools are there, why not utilize it? So it's really important. So we use things like AI within recruitment to making sure that we're recruiting the best people. So if you've got 100 people that have applied, how do you utilize your best time to go through those CVs? AI generally does that for you alongside ATS systems. That enable us to continue to make sure that when we take over care homes who have large agency use, we rapidly reduce that agency use within those homes and get it to 0%.
That's amazing. And like, so what would you say to other care directors that are maybe hesitant to spend the money on technology because they might not understand it or can't see the full benefit? Like, where are the measurable results for other care home directors? How have you done it, and kind of what would you say to others?
I would say if you don't use technology in your home, you're going to be left behind. So it's really important to put technology into your homes. It's really important to invest. Times are changing and changing quite rapidly. Those who are still behind in investing in technology, AI is already here.
Yeah.
What's the next thing? I went to the care show, Brendan,
Yeah.
and I saw a robot.
Yeah.
And the robot was providing care.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure whether somebody in that suit or whether it's actually a robot. But the reality is robots are coming.
Yeah.
And, so it's really important to move with times. In care industry, we've been quite slow in moving with those times. For example, in pharmacy, back in the day, we used to write handwritten labels, for people who want to take the medication. There would be a label on the bottle and it'd be handwritten. And we changed to computerized systems over 2 decades ago.
Yeah.
And only 5 years ago in the care industry, we now changed technology. So I think technology, it improves lives. It's really key. It reduces errors. If, for example, investing in your medication system, that reduces the vast amount of errors that manual systems have in place. And soon you'll see AI come into that factor as well. So AI within medication. I'm just waiting for a provider to bring AI within to medication systems, which will allow us to be a bit more smarter in administering medication.
Yeah. And I suppose often lots of care home directors will be sitting there like, oh, great, technology can help save me lots of money. You might need less people working, whatever it may be. Yeah. But for you, what are the kind of key benefits of implementing technology when it comes to both the level of care? You've mentioned recruitment, but also staff retention.
Yeah.
How does that all work together?
Yeah, I think data tells us a story. We must listen and act upon that, right? So it's really, really important. We look at all of our data, actually, and I think it's too late by the time somebody gives you a resignation letter, for example, and they want to leave. That relationship, it's almost too late. What we want to try and do is act way before that resignation letter comes into play. So actually, this is where technology tends to help. How engaging are people? How engaging are your workforce? Actually, what is the feedback from your workforce? And we all do feedback sessions, don't we? But actually, how valuable is that feedback? And actually, how much of that feedback do we do? We do it once a year? Do we do it every 3 months? Do we make sure that we do it often enough to ensure that we don't get the next P45 or we don't get the next resignation letter through the door? So I think it's really, really important to listen to that data. And as we talked about before, as AI kicks in to this whole situation, we're going to see a lot of that data transpire more and more. Actually, how well are our employees engaging within our systems or within our processes? And actually, if that falls off, perhaps that's the time where we need to engage with that employee or that person working with us to say, what's wrong? How can we help? How can we assist to reduce that turnover? We have less than 1% turnover. We now need to make sure that as we grow, can we continue to maintain that? And it will be, a lot of that will be to do with our data.
Yeah, absolutely. So I suppose another area then that is key for most care home groups as well is their marketing, to get those private paying care seeking families in through the doors. And you're working on or recently launched a redesigned website. Why have you decided to invest in your website, and what are you looking to achieve from the website?
As you know, we've grown quite rapidly.
Yeah.
We believe our old website didn't tell the story of who we are today. Your website is your shop front. Don't let it gather dust. It's really important that people can connect. people are quite often troubled and come with complexities and complications when they're looking for a particular care home. It's not easy for people to place a loved one into a care home.
Absolutely.
So then quite often your website is the first port of call. We need to humanize our websites as much as possible. We need to make sure that they can connect with you through your website. So the road that we're traveling on, we're rebranding at the moment.
Yeah.
We're making sure that we're putting a new website on in place, but we're making sure that we can humanize that website so people feel connected the minute they touch our website, the minute they enter into our website, that they can actually feel a real connection with Cara. So I think that's vitally important, making sure that they can move themselves around that website extremely quickly and get the answers they want to get really quickly.
Yeah.
Putting in things like chat, but we've got chat AI. And is that actually humanized? Is that a real picture? Is that actually demonstrating a connection? And I think we're looking at ways of actually how can we humanize chatbot, for example, without it looking like it's an AI replying to their replies.
Yeah.
So it's all those factors that we're actually looking at the moment in time to try and see how we can create the best connection, the best environment when someone lands on our website.
Yeah, absolutely. I think totally agree with everything you've said there. And it's that connection that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Often we find care home groups will advertise their homes logically in terms of advertise the facilities, the features, the activity. But actually families just want the emotional connection of, are you going to look after my loved one?
Absolutely.
That's all your website needs to do in my mind. But for you, what makes an effective website for care homes?
I believe it's important to make sure that, as you said, that you humanize it. It's actually from your very first interaction, there's a lot of information there. Actually, where are the real life stories on your website? You know, actually, people who are actually using your service, are there real life stories there? Also, people looking for roles and placements within care homes. So it's not just about the residents, but actually, have you got stories of your workforce, the people that work with you, how much they're enjoying working for Cara, displaying those stories on there. So pretty much what we're doing today, actually recording those stories and place them on your websites, I think gains a lot of attraction. And I think that's what builds connection. Those videos on your websites builds real human connection with those people looking for care. So I think it's important that you look at ways of making it real as opposed to just a bunch of text being on a website.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've talked a lot about your staff and the recruitment side, but obviously the other side of the picture for a business like Cara Healthcare is maximizing occupancy. It allows you to reinvest in the business, reinvest in your care, make things better, reinvest in your staff. What's your process then for ensuring high occupancy rates? Because, I mean, if you're growing at the rate that you're growing as a business, surely you must have good, high occupancy rates.
We do, and we often turn around homes with low occupancy or regulatory issues and bring them into high occupancy. It's really important to have strong local community links. That's really important. Strong local presence, community presence is important. Strong social media presence is also really important as well. I believe marketing brings people into the care home, but it's actually care that keeps them there, right? You cannot get yourself out of a poor experience. Marketing cannot get you out of a poor experience, but operational excellence will. So it's really important to make sure that you operate a care home well and you illustrate that when the person walks through the door. So I believe it's really important that the social media presence is there, doing videos, interactions. Those kind of factors are really important within social media to be able to do. We often quite just put pictures up. And the way we're traveling now is, can we put more videos so people can actually see what is happening? I'll tell you a story, actually. We had a garden party in one of our care homes. And we had the local mayor attend. There's about 200 people in that garden party. And I decided to go live on Facebook. Never done it before. And there was a live music band there. There's people dancing in the garden. And I went live for a good hour on Facebook. And the amount of interaction that got was tremendous. In fact, we had 5 inquiries and all 5 people came in to live within that care home and still live there today. So I do feel the video and live videos like on Facebook with your local communities has a huge impact. And I don't think we do it enough.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like we were talking about the power of video before this recording, and it's just simple facts like care-seeking families are on this journey. They're stressed, they're anxious, they probably haven't got time. They're sitting around the kitchen table deciding, okay, here are our options. What are we going to do? If they can see or hear the information in a quick 30-second video on a website, rather than having to read thousands of words, they're going to pick video.
Absolutely, I agree with that.
And it's the way that search is going as well. Organic search is going that way. So I suppose away from the marketing then, to get good videos and to market care homes well, you need to deliver outstanding resident experiences as well. So person-centered care is always a topic that we like to talk about. How do you ensure every resident here at Cara Healthcare have that nice personal-centered care?
It's really important. I think I learned a very important experience taking my children to watch the Harry Potter studios. I don't know if you've ever been there at all.
Yeah.
And there was this large writing on a wall, and I stood there for a good 5 minutes just reading this writing. And it said, a story only lives on if someone is willing to listen. At Cara, that's exactly what we do day in, day out. We listen to the stories of our residents. We listen to them time and time again. And we show up every day to listen to their story, and their story lives on. So I think it's really important to make sure that you are engaging with your residents, engaging with the families. We often say that, we develop care plans with our families, but how often do we meaningfully sit with those family members to discuss their loved one's care plan? How do we engage with them? We see quite often, if you've got children that go to nurseries, you'll often get pictures of your children, right? Playing in playgrounds, and they'll be, doing activities. And it doesn't matter how stressful your day is, if you see that picture, you and I are going to be smiling just as we are right now. So I think it's really important that going forward in care, that is exactly what happens in care. We're sending pictures, we're sending videos of their loved ones. Actually, it's their real life interaction. We have FaceTime. We've had it for a long, long time. Yeah. How often do we use video calls or FaceTime with families to brighten up their day for them to see what their loved ones are doing within care homes? So this is the way we want to be able to travel in Cara, to making sure that there's a real connection between families and their loved ones within care homes. And there's more of a connection as opposed to them just coming to see them. Can we do that on a daily basis? Can we do that 3 times a week basis? So we build it in that way.
Amazing. And so it's harnessing technology, it's looking after the residents, but also with the families. How involved can families be in deciding the care that their loved ones are going to receive? Or is it very much you give the recommendations, the families listen?
I think the families are very much at the forefront. That's their family member. They know exactly the level, the type of care and treatment they need. So they should be leading that conversation right from the onset. We're here to facilitate that. That's what we're here to do. We're here to ensure that right level of care is being provided to them. The exceptional care is being provided to them. So it is important, for us to, and also for us to train families. Families don't often know what dementia care is actually about. What are the complexities involved in it? We hear the dementia tour bus going around doing training for staff and for families, which I think is a great thing. I went on that dementia tour bus, and it gave me a great insight to what people with dementia actually live with. So I think it's really important, for families to also understand what care is about. How can we illustrate that? Yesterday I went to the Care Home Open Week showing, and it was a great way to now illustrate. And I wrote about this on LinkedIn this morning, and I said, it's Care Home Open Week, but care homes are open 365 days a year. So why is it called Care Home Open Week? Yeah. It's because it's the time to shine a light. Quite often there's no light being shown on care, right? Now it's the time for us to really show those MPs actually the decisions they make and the impact it has on care. Show the families, an open door for families to come and see actually what care is really about. So that's what Care Home Open Week is actually about. So engaging with your families is really, really important. Them traveling that journey with you is really important as well.
Yeah, and I think it's such a good point. We're all on a shared mission. If you work in care, you're on a shared mission, to provide the best possible care, but also for those outside of care to almost change their outdated misconceptions of what care is about. Yeah. Videos, the activities, getting footage within the care homes of what goes on in everyday life, and actually just telling people no, it's not what you imagine. It's this, that, and the other, and it's personal. That is something that every
Really
care
important.
home can do. So,
Yeah.
on that respect, yeah, the open week is probably an eye opener for a lot of people. So,
Yeah.
okay, let's go on to recruitment and retention. You've mentioned this quite often already,
Yes.
but the thing that I'm still kind of, a lot of things of what you're saying, the numbers, to me, having heard the kind of horror stories that I hear from other people in the industry, like recruitment can be such a challenge for other groups in the sector. What strategies have really helped you be successful in terms of finding candidates and keeping them?
Brendan, I've had to go through that process.
Yeah.
So whilst I shout about those numbers right now, I've been through the process of where there's been a large turnover. And it's this vicious cycle of recruiting people leaving. How do you come out of that vicious cycle? That's been a decade of learning. And it's been after a decade of learning of how to retain your staff, how to empower your staff, how to invest in the growth of your staff before looking at your personal growth or looking at the growth of Cara is being the key to our success. So we are now looking at making sure that we instill and we invest in the growth of our staff and our teams. So that's really key to do right from the onset. By instilling in their growth, it allows the growth of Cara. So it's really important that we do that. And that's why we've done things like the Cara Training Academy, for example. That time and investment is largely spent to empower our staff team, equip them with more knowledge. Knowledge is power, right? Yeah. So it's to equip them with that knowledge that they can do better for themselves in their personal lives as well as in their work life as well. So how have we retained them? Is we retain them through empowering them, investing in their growth. It's really important. And engaging them into the things that we do. So training them. We've had people come into Cara say, we've worked for large organizations which have had over 100 care homes, but we've never learned about finance, Yeah. And I say to them, you've got a household, you live in a house. How do you run a house without knowing your incoming and your outgoings? It's impossible. You wouldn't know how to manage your finances. So it's really important within a care home that the management team know how to manage their finances. So we teach them exactly that. We teach them the income that comes in and the income that goes out of care homes. So it's learnings like those where they haven't learned elsewhere, that they become embedded within our process. They love Cara. They love the fact of the growth of their personal growth that takes place within that.
We can't talk about recruitment and staff retention without talking, and I get it. People working in care, they're a special type of people. You have to be resilient. You have to care to work in care.
Yeah.
And away from competitive salaries and pay, we know all about that. But in your mind, what are the benefits and the perks of working for a company like Cara Healthcare over, say, other care groups?
All companies offer various different benefits, and actually, how does that help people stay within your company? I was on a train journey one day and someone said to me, oh, do you offer insurance or pension payments? I said, yes, but everybody does that.
Yeah.
What do we do differently to ensure that those people will continue to love Cara, will continue to stay with us forevermore? And I believe it's far beyond pay. It's far beyond the benefits that we provide, because every care provider provides it. And again, it goes back to that growth story, actually. How are we investing in the individual's growth? Quite often we think about what implications it has within our care business. But actually, what if a person came up to you and said, it's my ambition to write a story or write a book and publish that book? Would you invest within that person to enable them to write a story or publish a story? That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to making sure that the very people who have an ambition to do something different in their lives, whether that's publish a story, whether that's set up a standalone business or a store, we want to make sure that we invest in their personal growth. As a result, we know they will be that growth will come to Cara automatically as a result of that. It might be they mention us in their book, right?
Yeah.
Or they might be they mention us when they're out in their business world talking about Cara and to the local community. It's all building Cara's story. So I think that's how we do things differently. we can't always be competitive with the bigger organizations, those organizations which have 100 homes. But how do we attract that talent? And that talent is by investing in their personal growth, which eventually invests in Cara's growth as a result. So I think it's really key takeaway from that, and how we do that very differently. I don't believe it is just about it, providing them with pensions and the highest pay, but actually how we're investing in their own personal growth.
And how does Cara Healthcare tell that story to potential employees through employer branding? Have you got any examples of initiatives that have worked?
We are learning employer branding as we speak. Being invited to places like LinkedIn, being invited to places to doing podcasts with you.
Yeah.
We're very much learning the power of networking. We're learning the power of social media. We're learning the power of branding, and bringing people in. And LinkedIn, social media, Facebook, Instagram have all been a force of bringing people and attracting people to Cara. People read our stories. People read what we're investing in. People read our journey, and they want to travel that journey with us. And that's what brings them to Cara, genuinely. I get genuinely asked on a weekly basis, is there an opportunity to join Cara? That's largely because of the way that we are posting in various different social media platforms. People quite often post about things, about their businesses and about other aspects of their life within social media, for example, on LinkedIn. We post stories that connect with people. We post stories that are not created on ChatGPT. I'm not saying not to use AI, absolutely use AI, but make them absolutely real life, make them connect with people, make them that actually people really resonate with the stories that you're creating. So people resonate and they actually really connect with the stories that we're writing. And that's how we bring people to Cara.
All of your efforts in recruitment, retention, and also maximising occupancy is leading to sustainable growth for Cara Healthcare. We also know that the care sector has got enormous challenges each and every day. So how do you and other care home directors prepare for those challenges?
We face challenges every single day. And whether that's in recruitment, whether that's in compliance, whether that's changing technology from technology to AI, changing systems, we face that every single day. You can't be in care without being amenable to changing your processes very, very quickly. I was at a panel very recently, and they told us, they asked a question. They said 1 to 10, how optimistic are you? 1 being not so optimistic and 10 being extremely optimistic. Most of the people on the panel said between 6 and 7.5. And then it came to me, Brendan, and I said, it's a massive 10. It's a 10. Because if we can't be optimistic about care, if we can't be optimistic about our future, then how can others be? How can others invest within care? How can we attract finance within care? How can we get people to trust the care that we're providing? How can we get people to come in and work within the care sector and work within our care homes? We can't. We certainly face challenges, of course we do, but we must face those challenges with a big 10 optimistic process. We must be completely optimistic and challenge those challenges and overcome those. So yes, we do have those challenges, but we must be completely optimistic to overcome those challenges. How do we overcome them? Exactly what we talked about today. Investing in our people, investing in our services, investing in processes and structure, structure which creates that freedom. So I think it's really important to, overcome those challenges, because we can quite quickly turn into a negative, ethos or negative impact or negative story, can't we? And we can all become very negative that it's not great. We have a 30% turnover of staff. It's not great because, compliance is changing. We don't know what the CQC want us to exactly do. They haven't got it quite right. But actually, none of us would be in care if all those problems was that big of a problem. Yeah. We wouldn't be sat here today talking about it, would we? Of course, we need to challenge the government. We need to challenge those processes. We need to challenge those difficulties. We need to understand how we're going to come across those difficulties. But we need to be optimistic about how we're going to approach those challenges. We need to be optimistic that we can do it and that we can get there. So I think, there's certainly... My way is to be positive to overcome those challenges. And I tell my teams now and again, if you come across a challenge, tell me a positive way of overcoming that challenge.
Yeah, amazing. And I suppose being optimistic about the challenges has led you to where you are today with Cara. And what I'm interested in as well is your approach to forecasting demand and identifying those new growth opportunities, like acquiring 8 care homes. What makes you look at the data, realize, okay, it's go time, let's go for it?
I will always look at, obviously, the building, of course, to see if it's fit for purpose for the future. That is key as the journey now progresses. We're seeing brand new care homes coming into the market, and that's taking good force. So we do need to make sure that the buildings are fit for purpose, fit for the future. But we also need to make sure that the leadership teams are aligned with Cara's values. We need to make sure it's the right people working in that environment, and do they fit within our structure? Do they fit within our values? So absolutely, I think it's really important to making sure that actually, does that opportunity align with our values? Does that opportunity align with our culture? If it does, we'll definitely go forward with that opportunity. But if it doesn't, we're not shy to walk away from that opportunity. So we'll do, and we have done time and time again, where we feel it doesn't align with Cara's values. We can now be picky about how we expand and what we're going to do going forward. We want to make sure that we are bringing in those people who'll want to make a difference to people's lives and actually transform the way care is being done. We're not shy in taking those homes that are not performing well. We're not shy in taking those homes that are not financially operating well. And we're not shy in taking homes that are operating well and are performing well, but we can add in that extra magic that Cara brings to the table. So I think in terms of the challenging homes that the opportunities we look at all opportunities, whether they're good or whether they're bad. It's just whether they can turn into the culture and the values that we provide at Cara, or whether they can fit into within that culture. And if they can, we will go for it.
Brilliant. Okay, so I've asked you enough questions. Let's get some final takeaways for care leaders. So what would your one advice be for care home directors looking to grow and improve their operations?
I think if you build with purpose, build strong teams, you empower your people, then you build something that lasts. And so I think that's really key. Everything we've talked about today is absolutely important to making sure building care for the future. We are building the care of tomorrow, the care that you and I are most likely to receive. Yeah. So it's really important that we change the way care is going now for the way the care will be delivered in the next 10 years. So I would say to people that, lead with compassion, lead with purpose, lead with clarity, and ensure that you are very optimistic. If you're going to get into care, you're very clear and you have a clear purpose and you believe in care. That's really important, to believe in this process, because if you go into care not believing in care, then you're likely to fail. So I think it's really important to believe in care, believe in what we are creating, believe in the future of care. As I said to you before, those challenges will always exist, but how do we overcome them is a key factor. So I am extremely optimistic, Brendan, about care. I am enthusiastic. I'm very positive. I believe there's great things to come in care. There's a great generation of people coming into care, having different ideas of how to do care as well. So yeah, really looking forward to the next 10 years and what that will involve. AI's already come in. What will be next?
Okay, so Nick, thank you so much for all of that insight. Now, you're in the middle of a journey, growth journey. We'd love to have you back for a second episode in a few months to see how you're getting on with the new 8 homes that you've acquired this year. So if you're happy with that, we'll see you in a few months.
Yes, absolutely. Look, I believe growth is a journey. It's not a destination. So I'm certainly looking forward to doing that. Let's do that in a few months' time.
Perfect.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you so much, Brendan.
Cheers.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.